On this vote, the yeas are 384, the nays are 9. Two-thirds being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir. I have the honor to transmit herewith a copy of the letter received from Ms. Donna Barber, Executive Director with the New Jersey Division of Elections, indicating that according to the unofficial results for the special general election held on April 16, 2026, the Honorable Analilia Mejia was elected representative to Congress for the 11th Congressional District of New Jersey. Signed sincerely, Kevin F. McCumber, Clerk.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, in my role as Dean of the New Jersey delegation, I ask unanimous consent that the gentlewoman from New Jersey, the Honorable Analilia Mejia, be permitted to take the oath of office today. Her certificate of election has not arrived, but there is no contest and no question has been raised with regard to her election.
Without objection, will Representative-elect Mejia and the members of the New Jersey delegation present themselves in the well? All members will rise, and the representative-elect will please raise her right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter, so help you God?
Absolutely, yes.
Congratulations, you're now a member of the 119th Congress. The House will be in order. Would the House be in order? Shh. 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 Without objection, the gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I cannot overemphasize the level of enthusiasm that I and the New Jersey delegation expressed today on the swearing-in of Congresswoman Mejia. I cannot. We are so enthusiastic, and I think you can tell from our own constituents who came here today. But I just want you to understand that her leadership was so important, her reaching out to the grassroots, her reaching out and standing up for working families, but even more so for young people. Young people were so enthused by her, and you know, many of us are concerned about the future of our democracy and whether younger people are going to vote, whether they're going to participate. And Analilia made it clear that that was so important to her, and so she got so many people who were younger to come out, to vote, to actually participate in the election, to knock on doors, and all the things that are so important to our democracy. And she talked about solutions. She didn't just say, "We want you to come out." She talked about solutions for working people that would actually make a difference. And this is what's really important. So the reason that we're so enthused is because we see someone who reaches out to young people, who's a grassroots organizer, and who understands the problems of working families. So with that, I yield to the new member of our New Jersey delegation, the gentlewoman, Congresswoman Mejia.
Yes, please. Yes, that's better. Good evening. Good evening. It is a privilege and an honor to stand before you. We, the privileged few, honored with the responsibility to represent the interest of our fellow Americans at home and across the world. I thank my new colleagues for your warm welcome and the great people of New Jersey's 11th Congressional District for their trust. I want to thank, of course, my husband, Robert, somewhere, my 2 children, my 2 children, Langston and August, for being my best supporters. The 3 of you mean the world to me. I also want to thank my sister, Anaisa, and my 2 mothers, Luz and Michelle, and my dearly departed father, Francisco, for always standing alongside me. My presence in this chamber is in many ways an unlikely reality. I am the daughter of a Dominican factory worker and a Colombian seamstress who knew struggle. And yet I stand before you representing the great 11th Congressional District of New Jersey, a place rich in history and eager to make more. I bring you greetings from Morristown, where George Washington led through the harsh winters of the Revolutionary War, as well as greetings from Bloomfield, New Jersey, which led the way on access to public education for all. In fact, I send greetings from every corner of my district. My constituents are eager to hear how we shall work together to improve the lives of the many I am honored to represent. Mr. Speaker, there is an African proverb that says, if you wish to know the end, you must strive to understand the beginning. This proverb feels timely as I begin my tenure in this lauded space, at the precipice of our nation's 250th anniversary. As I address this body, I am ever present to the fact that it was conceived and designed as the people's house, a counterweight at critical moments where people may have the fullest say. I stand before you on this day, the 20th of April. I want to remind you that on this date in 1871, an act to enforce the provisions of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, and for other purposes, otherwise known as the Ku Klux Klan Act, was signed as an attempt by we the people to make true the promise of freedom and equity hard-earned through conflict and peacemaking. The third in a series of enforcement acts, it was designed to protect the civil and political rights of individuals under threat by the violence of vigilante groups intent to deny the protections of the Constitution for those who earned it through blood, sweat, and tears. The 14th Amendment The 14th Amendment defined citizenship and guaranteed due process and equal protection of the law to all Americans. Vigilante groups like the Klan, however, threatened by the idea of expansive freedom, used violence to undermine the Republican Party's plan for Reconstruction. The Ku Klux Klan Act made it a federal crime to deny any group or individual any of the rights, privileges, or immunities or protections named in the Constitution. In a moment in which a state-sanctioned vigilante group threatens due process and equal protection, and our highest court questions citizenship clearly defined in the Constitution, it is important for us to strive to understand the beginning so that we may protect what we hold most dear all the way through to the end. I join you. Oh. Thank you. I join you today with a message delivered by the people of New Jersey's 11th Congressional District, but echoed nationally. Stand up, defend, restore not only our democracy, but also a just economy that actually works for working people. Stand up for folks like Bob, a retired fire captain who served at Ground Zero, struggling to access health care because of staffing cuts and hiring freezes. Stand up for Mary, who alongside her husband dropped her own health coverage just to afford their child's college tuition. Think about and stand up for Larry and Joe, who work hard every day and deserve a just retirement in their golden years. These are not just abstract policies or debates. These are real consequences of the decisions made in this chamber at a time where our Constitution and our rights are under strain. We are called not just to serve, but to stand up, to protect, and to deliver on the promise of equal protection and justice under our great laws. That is the work ahead of us. That is the work that we must take on. And I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my new colleagues, and therefore I yield. Thank you.
Under Clause 5D of Rule 20, the chair announces to the House that in light of the administration of the oath to the gentlewoman from New Jersey, the whole number of the House is 432. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Allen, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 5200, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title.
Union Calendar Number 517, H.R. 5200, a bill to direct the Federal Communications Commission to issue reports after activation of the Disaster Information Reporting System and to make improvements to network outage reporting and for other purposes.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 386, the nays are 7. Two-thirds being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House out of order.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, it is with a heavy heart that I rise today, alongside my colleagues in the New York delegation, to mourn the loss of our dear friend and former colleague, Elliot Engel. Over the course of a
Gentleman may
lifetime in public
proceed.
service,
Would you please take conversations off the floor? Gentleman from New York may proceed.
over the course of a lifetime in public service, including more than 3 decades in Congress, Elliot was a tireless champion for the people of the Bronx, Westchester, and Rockland County. Throughout his career, his hard work and fierce advocacy improved the lives of countless people in the United States and across the world. As a member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, he was a leader on such issues as health care, energy, and consumer protection. But Elliot had perhaps his greatest impact as chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, which he led with integrity and experience, lending strength and credibility to America's role in the world. Among his many accomplishments, he played a crucial role in protecting the people of Kosovo and combating child labor. Most of all, he will be remembered as an unwavering friend to Israel. As the Congressional Jewish Caucus noted upon his passing, Elliot Engel, quote, is among the pantheon of champions of our people who have served with distinction in the halls of Congress, close quote. His legacy of service to New York, to the nation, and to the world lives on through the issues he fought for and the lives he touched. Our thoughts are with his wife, Pat, and all of his loved ones. May his memory be a blessing. Mr. Speaker, I ask that all members and staff rise for a moment of silence in remembrance of Chairman Elliot Engel.
Would all members please rise for a moment of silence in the chamber as well as across the campus?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to speak out of order.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker and colleagues, our hearts are broken tonight, as they have been since Sunday morning. The news out of my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, a city that is represented in part by Congressman Cleo Fields here with me now. Everyone has seen the stories in the news. But we stand here with one voice as members of the Louisiana delegation to express our deep sorrow for the lives that were taken too soon. 8 young, innocent children, all between the ages of 3 and 11, were lost in a tragedy that can only be described as senseless, unspeakable evil. Jayla Elkins was 3 years old. Shayla Elkins, 5. Kayla Pugh, 6. Layla Pugh, 7. Markaden Pugh, 10. Soraya Snow, 11. Kadarian Snow, 6. And Braylon Snow, 5. As the details of their killing unfold, it's difficult for us to put our emotions into words. This tragedy confounds the minds and hearts of every parent in America, and we've been thinking a lot about this. We encourage mothers and fathers to go home tonight and hold your loved ones extra close. I think all of us are doing that. Life is a sacred gift from God, and as this horrific event reminds us, it can be too short. The entire community of Shreveport needs our prayers right now. The first responders and law enforcement who descended swiftly on the scene, the classrooms and empty seats and missing friends at school today, and most of all, the families whose lives have been forever changed by this tragedy. Hold all of them close in your hearts and your prayers, if you will, and we trust that God is close to the brokenhearted, as promised to us in Scripture. And now, if we could all please join in a moment of silence in honor of the 8 young and precious lives that were lost far too soon. Mr. Speaker, I ask that the House now observe a moment of silence. Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that I may hereafter be considered the first sponsor of H.R. 7380, a bill originally introduced by Representative Swalwell of California for the purpose of adding co-sponsors and requesting reprintings pursuant to Clause 7 of Rule 7.
Without objection. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that it may be in order at any time on Tuesday, April 28, 2026, for the Speaker to declare a recess subject to the call of the Chair for the purpose of receiving a joint meeting, His Majesty King Charles III.
Without objection. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on House Administration be discharged from further consideration of S-Con Res 29 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
Without objection. The clerk will report the title of the concurrent resolution.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 29. Concurrent resolution authorizing the use of Emancipation Hall and the Capitol Visitor Center for an event to celebrate the birthday of King Kamehameha I.
Is there objection to the consideration of the concurrent resolution? Without objection, the concurrent resolution is agreed to, and the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I request that my name be removed as a co-sponsor of H.R. 2555.
The gentleman's request is granted. The chair will now entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate the Borough State College for its recent recognition as the nation's best small college town by USA Today. For the first time in this decades-long poll, State College secured the top spot, a reflection of the borough's commitment to making this an area people love to live in. Commonly known to Pennsylvanians as Happy Valley, State College is home to more than 40,000 residents. The borough shares a deep-rooted partnership with Penn State, where residents and visitors gather to celebrate the community's school spirit. Beyond the Penn State campus, Centre County provides the perfect backdrop for people who want to explore the surrounding trails and parks. Mr. Speaker, State College has grown significantly since the borough's founding more than 120 years ago. The downtown area is home to many thriving local businesses and restaurants that help make State College a welcoming town. Congratulations on this fantastic achievement, State College. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, over the weekend, Arizona lost one of our greatest and most impactful leaders. So today I rise to honor Dr. Gene Blue, a man of profound and lasting impact on the state of Arizona. For decades, Dr. Blue led Arizona Opportunities Industrialization Center on a mission as simple as it was powerful: help people help themselves. Under his leadership, OIC delivered GED programs, vocational training, career counseling, job placement, opening real pathways to self-sufficiency for tens of thousands of Arizonans who needed a second chance. But across Arizona, Dr. Blue was best remembered for his service as chairman of the state's Dr. Martin Luther King Celebration Committee, a role he held for over 2 decades. Year after year, he organized the wonderful torch run, the breakfast, the march, bringing together Greater Phoenix to always closer to Dr. King's vision of a beloved community. He did not seek recognition. He sought results. He wanted to be remembered for the lives he touched, and there were countless Arizonans who are better for having crossed his path. Dr. Blue was a foundational figure, a true public servant, and today I am proud to join his family and all Arizonans in honoring his extraordinary legacy. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to offer my sincerest congratulations to an esteemed champion, Rory McIlroy, on his remarkable victory at the 2026 Masters Golf Tournament. Each year during the first full week of April, golf fans, professionals, and patrons from across the world travel to Georgia's 12th District and the Augusta National Golf Club for a tradition unlike any other. Once again, this year's historic tournament reminded the world why Augusta stands as the true pinnacle of championship golf. With determination and grit, Rory McIlroy secured his second straight green jacket, a feat only 3 of golf all-time greats have accomplished. The story behind Rory's historic victory is not one of a usual stature. Last year, overcoming an 11-year major championship drought, Rory completed the career Grand Slam at Augusta and only to go back-to-back championships this year. His resilience provides a powerful message to the next generation. Success belongs to those who persevere. Congratulations and thanks go to Chairman Fred Ridley, members and staff of Augusta National, and volunteers for presenting another outstanding competition where the greatest, like Rory McIlroy, can make history.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Nevada seek recognition?
I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, please.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor the life and legacy of William O'Neill McCurdy, affectionately known to many simply as Billy. Billy was a prominent figure in Las Vegas, a longtime pastor, entrepreneur, and community activist, among so much more. A true Las Vegas icon, he was an influential community figure with decades of civic and political ties across the state. And although he never held public office himself, he had an immense influence in the community and in Nevada politics. The McCurdy family has been a fixture on the historic West Side and the entire state of Nevada for 7 decades. Nevada is so honored to have felt his impact throughout the years, and we will continue to feel that impact through his family and his son, William McCurdy II, Clark County Commissioner. Billy McCurdy will forever be remembered and greatly missed by the entire Las Vegas community. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Wyoming seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
I rise today to recognize and congratulate Mike Stepp and his family on 70 years of sweetening Casper's history with Donnell's Candies. The Donnell family opened their candy shop in 1956 on a busy strip in Northeast Casper. Success followed, with the business moving to downtown 40 years later. A family tradition started by Don and Elma Stepp with chocolates in the 50s has since expanded to selling ice cream and espresso in the 21st century. While Emma passed before her beloved shop's first relocation, her family has continued the candy-making legacy to the delight of everybody in the community. Every Casper resident has indulged in the Stepp family's candies, satisfying a sweet tooth as a ritual of another success story for the American dream on Main Street. Congratulations to Mike Stepp and his entire family for reaching 70 years in business. And I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to express my outrage over the conditions that are in place at the growing number of immigrant detention centers established by ICE and the Trump administration nationwide. Aside from holding individuals without judicial warrants, oftentimes detaining American citizens illegally, the centers clearly have not prioritized incarcerating just rapists and violent criminals as advertised. Reports from coast to coast reference centers where members of Congress have visited and found insufficient bathroom access, inadequate sleeping accommodations, and general overcrowding, all dismissed by the management of ICE. In a month where this president has picked a fight with the Pope, the leader of the Catholic Church worldwide, and put himself on a social media meme as if he were a divine figure, these policies are far from divine or Christian or humane. Obsessed by putting one's own name on buildings to assure everlasting fame, I can assure you this name will never be forgotten as the architect and advocate of a system of inhumanity. The world is watching. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today we honor Gary Sides, pictured here beside me, a man who gave over a decade of public service to Union County, North Carolina. As a former Union County Commissioner, he spent years not only serving, but truly changing lives. Gary was a constant champion for students, especially those with special needs. He stood beside families of every kind. He showed up again and again for his community. In December of 2024, Gary Sides was sworn in as a Union County Commissioner, a role that reflected the trust of our community that they had in him and his dedication he had already proven. But just 4 months after he was sworn in, Gary received a devastating diagnosis, stage 4 glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer. And yet, even in the face of an unimaginable heartbreak, Gary's life remains a testament not to hardship, but to service. He lived a life that put others first. Every single day, he served the people of Union County with humility, compassion, and purpose. He focused on what mattered most: education, public safety, and the well-being of Union County. If something needed to be done, Gary was there to do it. But beyond his work, Gary was a man of deep faith, a man who walked with God, was led by faith, and who found strength in something greater than himself. And in that we find peace in knowing that he is now in heaven with our Lord Jesus Christ. So today, let us remember Gary Sides, but not only remember him, but let us learn from him. Let us live in a way that when our time comes, we too will be remembered as someone who gave back more than they took. And above all, let us keep our faith at the center of all we do, just as Gary did every day. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Arizona seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
I rise today with pride to honor an extraordinary group of young women from Arizona's 7th Congressional District, the Pima Community College women's basketball team, NJCAA Division II national champions. Last month, they made history, defeating Kirkwood 64-58 to secure the program's first ever national title, representing Southern Arizona and Tucson with excellence. This team faced adversity all season, but stayed resilient, united, and found a way to win, and are now champions. Tournament MVP Melissa Nelson led the charge with 20 points and 11 rebounds from Window Rock. She carries the pride of the Navajo Nation and now stands as the best player in the tournament. To Coach Todd and the entire team, congratulations, felicidades. Thank you so much for inspiring us all. Southern Arizona is proud. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Washington seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to congratulate Julie and Jürgen Grieb of Treveri Cellars for their recognition as influencers and trailblazers in SIP magazine. It all began in 2008 when Jürgen first suspected that Central Washington and Yakima Valley grapes might make a delicious sparkling wine. Well, he put that theory to the test, and the wine was so good that when Julie tried it, she was blown away. That led them to working together to open Treveri Cellars, Washington's first sparkling wine house. Today, Treveri is highly respected, multi-generational. It's a family-owned business that produces over 50,000 cases of sparkling wine a year. Julie and Jürgen, congratulations again for this well-deserved, outstanding recognition. Cheers to you both. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor the 100th anniversary of the W.K. Kellogg Arabian Horse Center in Pomona, California. Founded in 1925 by Will Keith Kellogg, this remarkable institution began as one man's bold vision to pair education with purpose and inspire lives through the beauty of Arabian horses. That vision grew far beyond the ranch, helping lay the foundation for Cal Poly Pomona, a university rooted in access, equity, and hands-on learning. For a century, the Kellogg Arabian Horse Center has been a gateway to opportunity. Through programs like Sunday shows, Full Watch, and Horses for Heroes, students truly learn by doing, developing skills in leadership and service that carry them far beyond the classroom. As we celebrate this milestone, we honor not just the historic institution, but the transformative power of education and philanthropy. Congratulations to the W.K. Kellogg Arabian Horse Center on a century of excellence and impact, and cheers to the next 100 years. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Friday, I sadly received this message from a courageous friend in Ukraine. Dear Brother Joe, today our hearts are heavy. Just a few hours ago, Russian troops struck a Baptist church in Zaporizhia. This is not just a building, it was a beautiful house of prayer that believers built over many years, sacrificing their own finances and strength. For more than 300 people, it became a spiritual home, a place of worship, fellowship, and family. Now it lies in ruins. We already know of at least 5 victims, including one minister, Ruslan Yutaz, who was inside the church at the moment of the strike. Please stand with us in prayer and action. This must be stopped. End of quote. In conclusion, God bless our troops. As the global war on terrorism continues, Trump is continuing to reinstitute peace through strength, revealing war criminal Putin lies, insulting and mocking truth. with war criminal Putin bombing churches to intimidate Ukrainians, but war criminal Putin is a loser, as Ukrainians will achieve victory. Congratulations to Congressman Neil Dunn on the birth of a granddaughter an hour ago. Nora Amelia Dunn. Grateful parents are David and Isabel Dunn of Phoenix, Arizona. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Ohio seek recognition?
And to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to recognize a victory in the fight for liberty on the continent of Europe, our closest tested allies. Earlier this month, the people of Hungary voted in record numbers to end the repressive rule of its former Russia-leaning prime minister. As co-chair of the Congressional Hungarian Caucus, I cheered with Hungarian Americans and just was thrilled at the victory of liberty in Hungary in the person of its new prime minister, Peter Magyar. For 16 years, Hungarians endured a cadre of kleptocrats that plundered their country and sold it out to the interests of Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Shocking tapes reveal how Orban's top officials, the former prime minister, plotted with Russia to undermine neighboring Ukraine and the rest of Europe and even help the Ayatollah in Iran. The former prime minister's betrayal of the Hungarian people and the NATO alliance is why Congressman Don Bacon and I introduced the Block Putin Act to hold these corrupt officials accountable. Thank God the people of goodwill won in Hungary. When Soviet Russia invaded their beautiful country in 1956, it took decades before they got a victory for democracy.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
And you have friends in America, our dear, dear friends in Hungary. We love
gentlewoman's
liberty
time
too.
has expired.
Bravo, onward.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Alabama seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I seek permission to speak for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor the life and legacy of Thomas Elred Bradford, a man who truly embodied servant leadership. A Birmingham native and graduate of Ramsey High School, Tom served in the United States Air Force after college before joining his family business. After a successful career in business, instead of retiring, Tom founded the National Christian Foundation of Alabama. Tom was deeply committed to his faith and community, serving as an elder at Briarwood Presbyterian Church and in leadership roles with numerous civic, charitable, and Christ-centered organizations across Birmingham. Most importantly, he was a devoted husband to Mary Ann and a loving father. Tom was always searching for ways to invest in those around him, and I was fortunate enough to benefit from his mentorship. Tom gave me my first job in Birmingham, and years later, when I came to him with the idea to start a pro-family think tank, he agreed to serve as the founding board chairman of the Alabama Family Alliance, which later became the Alabama Policy Institute. Tom was always a tremendous source of advice and godly counsel and became like a second father to me. Tom was truly a force for good. He will be missed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New Jersey seek recognition? Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to congratulate Patricia Guerrero Frazier for her appointment as mayor of Union Township in New Jersey's 10th Congressional District. Mayor Frazier has made history, becoming the first Latina woman to hold this role. She has displayed her dedication to serving her community by focusing on improving the quality of life for Union residents. Since being sworn in, she has focused on cultural investment, community parks, public safety, and development. Mayor Frazier has also brought something very special to this role: her experience serving her community as a teacher for 23 years. On behalf of New Jersey's 10th Congressional District, congratulations to our new mayor of Union Township and wishing her all the best as she continues to serve Union. With that, I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise tonight to honor the life and legacy of Berks County Fire Chiefs Jeff Buck and Robert Schick, who tragically lost their lives in the line of duty. On April 4th, Walnut Town Fire Chief Jeff Buck and Assistant Chief Robert Schick were participating in a missing person search when they were struck and killed by a man driving under the influence. Chief Buck and Assistant Chief Schick served the Berks County community with distinction for many years. The outpouring of sorrow and support from the entire community reflects the respect and admiration held by all. Beyond their outstanding service to the community, Chief Buck and Assistant Chief Schick were both also dedicated family men. I want to extend my deepest condolences and prayers to their surviving wives, children, and grandchildren. Mr. Speaker, this unspeakable tragedy highlights the dangers our first responders face every day. I know the entire Berks County community will never waver in their commitment to honor the legacy of these brave heroes, and I urge Congress to follow their example by never failing to support our first responders, firefighters, and police. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, at Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point, I've seen firsthand what makes Eastern North Carolina strong. Our Marines, our civilian workers, our community, and their commitment to being mission ready. As the Air Station of the Year with 24/7 airfield operation, Cherry Point isn't just about national defense. It's about jobs, families, and the future of Havelock in our region. The STAR-based program provides students with hands-on STEM experiences and real opportunities to learn and succeed. I'm so proud to support $40 million for the F-35 Sustainment Center, strengthening our national security. Thank you to our Marines, their families, the allies for Cherry Point's tomorrow, and Mayor Will Lewis for an incredible visit. When we stand with our Marines, we're also standing for Eastern North Carolina. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House of Representatives for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I intended to address the House last Friday on April 17th, but our legislative calendar shifted and the House was not in session. As a result, Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the 102nd birthday of someone very special to me, my grandmother, whom my family affectionately refers to as Gax. My grandmother was born on April 17th, 1924 in Des Moines, Iowa, and today she resides in Georgia, blessed with incredible health. At the early age of 102, my grandmother still drives her car, shops at the grocery store, and attends a weekly exercise class with her friends. I am my grandmother's only grandchild, which is notable because she will forever have a perfect record having her grandchildren elected to Congress. Since her 95th birthday, we have celebrated her birthday in very special ways. And this year, my grandmother's watching at home with family as we wish her from the floor of the United States House of Representatives a very happy 102nd birthday. I yield back.
Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2025, the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Lucas, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield myself as much time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in solemn remembrance of something that happened 31 years ago in Oklahoma City at the federal building that we referred to as the Murrah Building, when an act of unimaginable horror took place and the lives of 168 of our fellow Americans were taken on almost an instant. That was one of those experiences that forever reshaped my community and my neighbors. It reshaped the country at the time. And that's what I and my colleagues rise this evening to discuss is 31 years ago and how our communities responded and where we went from there. I was an 11-month member of Congress at the time. My district office was a block and a half away from the Murrah building. And the force and the magnitude of the explosion that day was so incredible that not only did it blow the interior out of the Murrah building, leaving just a shell, but that it also damaged buildings blocks away, literally creating chaos and confusion all over central Oklahoma City. But sometimes, in the chaos of the modern world, we forget that we are Americans, we are Oklahomans, we are fellow human beings, and we rise to the occasion. That response, beginning almost instantly and covering hours and days and weeks, reflected that Oklahoma standard, that Oklahoma way of doing things, but not just Oklahoma, our great nation. And this evening, for a little bit, we together will discuss the things that we have dealt with since then, the things we observed in those moments, and how it made a real difference in the lives of the survivors and those who were so critically injured. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield to my friend from Oklahoma as much time as he might consume. Congressman Cole was Secretary of State for the state of Oklahoma, a central member of Governor Keating's cabinet, and when the emergency response programs were activated, was a part of the state's response to help local government and interact with FEMA. Congressman Cole.
I want to thank my good friend from Oklahoma, distinguished colleague, and an extraordinary leader in that moment, Mr. Lucas, for yielding. Like my friend, we don't need a lot of notes to talk about that day, 31 days ago to the day yesterday. We remember what was the darkest day in Oklahoma history, the worst act of domestic terrorism ever performed on American soil. And my friend, Mr. Lucas, as he said, was only 11 months in as a new congressman representing that area and that district. We're very lucky there was not a loss of life in his office, as close as they were to the disaster site. I had been in office less than 100 days working for our friend Frank Keating. I will never forget that day. I was walking into my office. I could feel a little shudder. The Capitol is about 2.5 miles away from the disaster site. I sat down in my chair, and my secretary immediately walked into my office. And she said, something terrible's happened in downtown Oklahoma City. Your wife, who was 3 blocks away, she was working as a paralegal at the time, had just called and said something terrible's happened. She's on the phone. So I got on the phone, and she described to me what she could see from the 18th floor of a office tower at a law firm 3 blocks away. And she says, I don't know what's occurred, but there's been a horrific explosion. There are hundreds of people in the street, and people are screaming, and something awful's happened. Immediately walked upstairs to the governor's office. Frank Keating was our new governor at the time. He obviously had been in office less than 100 days as well. And if you walk into the governor's office, there's a press office immediately to your right. I looked to the right, I saw the governor, his chief of staff, my good friend Clinton Key, and they were watching the disaster as it unfolded because there were already helicopters flying over the disaster site. And one of the news commentators was speculating, well, this was a natural gas explosion. Frank Keating had been an FBI agent in the early part of his career. He was a law enforcement official, later Associate Attorney General of the United States under President Reagan, and he was looking at this, and one of his first jobs as a young FBI officer in the 1960s had been to investigate acts of terrorism associated with the Vietnam War and the West Coast. And I will never, ever forget him watching. He said, that is not a natural disaster, a natural gas explosion. That's a car bomb. And that's probably some act of terrorism. He knew immediately what we were dealing with. As we watched that horrific day unfold, where we lost 168 lives, I marveled every single day at the extraordinary leadership that Frank Keating and our First Lady, Kathy Keating, showed for the state of Oklahoma. He not only knew what had happened, he knew instinctively what he needed to do. we had an emergency meeting in the governor's office, and we decided there's always a debate in one of these things. Do you go to the site? Do you lead from the Capitol? And Frank Keating says, you go to where the action is. I'm going downtown, and assigned various tasks to the rest of us, and he headed down. And he saw, and I joined him later that day, this horrific explosion that had taken 168 lives, injured hundreds and hundreds of more people. And we watched the unfolding relief effort. So as bad as the day was for Oklahoma, I don't think I was ever prouder of the state and, quite frankly, the country as it dealt with the tragedy unfolding in front of us in those opening hours on April 19th of 1995. Our first responders in Oklahoma City, police officers, fire department, immediately sprung into action, immediately trying to get people out of the building, trying to contain the disaster. Over 300 buildings around the site had been heavily damaged, and they performed heroically and magnificently because, frankly, we thought at the time there might be other bombs there might be other explosions coming. By about 11 o'clock that morning, we had the governor back, and we convened at an emergency management center in downtown, at the Capitol complex in Oklahoma City. And about 1 o'clock, we got a call from the President of the United States, Bill Clinton. Most people don't know this, but President Clinton and Governor Keating had gone to Georgetown University together. And when the governor was president of the senior class, then sophomore class member Bill Clinton was president of the sophomore class. So they knew one another extraordinarily well. And there was already lots of speculation that there might be, it might be a terrorist activity directed from overseas. And the president asked the governor, Governor, do we have any earthly idea who did this? And he said, no, Mr. President, we don't. You're going to hear a lot of speculation, but obviously we don't know at this point who did this deed. And I will never forget the response of President Clinton, who said immediately, well, I hope it's not an American that did it. I hope it's not a foreigner who did something like this. And I remember thinking, well, gosh, how could you want it to be an American? And the president said something very insightful, actually came back to me when we as a country went through 9/11. He said, if this was done by somebody overseas, we will be at war someplace in the world within the next 6 months. He too knew immediately what the consequences of this awful act were. In the days ahead, again, our firefighters, our National Guard, our police, all the surrounding police officers and fire departments did an extraordinary job as we struggled to find out who had done this and what could we do to save lives. Were there still survivors left in there? And at every point, Governor Keating showed leadership, but he was not alone. The mayor of Oklahoma City, Ron Norick, good friend of Congressman Lucas and mine, also performed magnificently, directing the response effort. But much more importantly than that, for us, the people of Oklahoma responded instinctively and heroically, not only in sending the relief efforts that we initially needed, but also in rallying around the victims, giving blood, trying to see whatever was needed at site would be done. I then recall all the other Americans from all over the country that were immediately moving in our direction to help. We had relief units. I met the captain of the New York Fire Department, who later lost his life in 9/11, responding. I met relief and rescue workers from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They were from all over America because it's what Americans do when you face a tragedy. You help other Americans. And finally, I will tell you the Clinton administration responded spectacularly. President Clinton sent every bit of aid that we requested and then some. And then when we decided, our First Lady decided that we needed to grieve while we were dealing with the disaster, She came up with the idea of the prayer service, which was attended immediately by Billy Graham, by the President of the United States, obviously by our local dignitaries, and by our neighbor, the newly elected governor of the state of Texas, George Bush. You just saw all Americans coming and working together. Over the course of that, something called the Oklahoma Standard was developed and still very famous amongst first responders. This is how a community and frankly a state and frankly a country is supposed to respond when it's confronted with an unspeakable act of evil. So as terrible as it was, it became a rallying point for the people of Oklahoma, and it became an incident where you could see the goodness and decency of the American people overcoming a terrible act of evil. And we got help from all over the world. We had people, I still have a thing that a nun had made, prayer beads, sent to us from Germany. People just responded and stepped up. But we'll never forget in Oklahoma the horror of those days. They were the worst days I ever lived through. And we'll never forget the decency of both the people of Oklahoma and certainly of Oklahoma City, and then decent people from all across the country who helped us, a great and compassionate government that was immediately available. You know, sometimes the government is a pretty controversial thing these days. You'll never know how lucky you are as an American when something terrible like this happens and all the resources and all the compassion of a great and good people are immediately at your disposal to help you get through a disaster. FBI, FEMA, law enforcement personnel, again, more rescue teams. And that went on for day after day after day. Out of that came a thought that the governor had, what can we do to help the survivors? What can we do for all the children that are now orphans? And he set up, with the First Lady, Kathy Keating, a foundation which frankly raised the money and provided for the education of every child who lost a parent. College, technical education, whatever they needed, we would be there to fulfill the role of the parents who were taken from very young children at an age in a way that they couldn't possibly comprehend, and that frankly none of us could ever understand what happened behind it and what the reasons for it were. But I think about that day quite often, and I think about it particularly on the anniversary dates. There was an enormous celebration yesterday in Oklahoma City, prayer services. We have a memorial marathon that we run every year connected with this event, the Day to Remember. Again, out of that terrible thing, so many good things have happened. But I particularly want to commend my friend. I was assigned the job as Secretary of State of being the liaison with the federal government. And that meant I was working through my congressman and my friend, Frank Lucas, to try and make sure that the federal government played its appropriate role, not only in the response, and believe me, they did. I could not, again, ask any more from President Clinton. I've expressed that to him on many occasions and on this floor on multiple occasions. Anything we asked for, he made sure that we had. But I also think of, again, all the decent people that rallied around and helped us. We saw superb leadership at the public level. My friend was at the heart of making sure that Oklahoma City got all the help that it needed. We were trying to struggle with what will it take to rebuild Oklahoma City. I remember talking to my counterparts in the federal government at the time that President Clinton had dispatched, and the normal relief in a situation like that's a disaster is a 75-25 split. And I remember telling one of them, this isn't a natural disaster. This is an attack on a federal facility in the middle of Oklahoma City. And they thought about it and they said, you know, you're right. This is really a federal responsibility. So the generosity of the people of the United States of America helped rebuild Oklahoma City. And that very same concept was used when our friends in New York, who had been so quick to send us help, went through an even more horrific ordeal on 9/11. So these disasters were meant to hurt the state of Oklahoma, but they were meant to hurt our faith and our system, and they were meant to damage the American people profoundly. They did exactly the opposite. They reminded us that whatever our differences politically, whatever differences we have in different parts of the country, in the end, we're all Americans. In the end, Americans stick together and look after their own. And frankly, as I said, we got help from all over the world. And we got help from every point on the political spectrum. And we've got the assistance of folks that decided they would not give in to horror. They would not give in to terrorism. They would not allow evil to overcome the innate decency of the people. So as I pause and reflect, I do remember it as the worst day of my life. I do remember it as the worst day in the history of my state, but I remember it also as an example of the compassion, the decency, and the enormous capability of the American people to look after their own in a terrible situation. I want to thank my friend for organizing this memorial to this horrific event, because it's really something we should never forget, but it's something we should always be proud of. We should be proud of the response of those very first police officers and firemen, just as at 9/11, not knowing exactly what had happened, but throwing themselves in harm's way. We should be proud of the political leadership that we had at the time. We were very fortunate to have the governor we had, the first lady that we had, Frank and Kathy Keating, the mayor we had in Oklahoma City, the congressman we had that represented that area and worked with us not just in those days and weeks, but frankly in the months and years that followed to make sure that Oklahoma City recovered. And we should be proud of a people that never, ever will forget what occurred that day, and never, ever will let the forces of evil overcome the forces of good and the decency of the American people. So I just would yield back and tell you, I've seen enough in my lifetime to know when good overcomes evil, and that in the end it always does, because I saw it in Oklahoma City. I saw it with friends and colleagues. I saw it from strangers all across the country. I saw it from political leaders at every point in the political spectrum. So what was our worst day as a state was probably our best day in terms of showing what we were capable of when we were challenged, and reminding the world that all of America stands together against terrorism, and all of America works together to help people not only deal with the immediate tragedy, but to overcome, to heal, and to move on. And so with that, I thank my friend for setting up this fitting memorial discussion this evening, and yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Speaker, I now yield as much time as he might consume to the gentleman who represents the 2nd District of Oklahoma, Congressman Burkeen. Clearly, he too cares about all Oklahomans and all of our fellow citizens. Gentlemen.
Yeah, I find myself in an unfortunate status. I was a high school, Colgate High School young adult, and a member of Congress was dealing with this at the time that I'm in high school. A Secretary of State was dealing with this at the time that I was in high school. And I of course, had friends that lost a loved one. I would later have a college roommate that I would discover, people I went to church with for years. His father was an APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service veterinarian for USDA. We would room together at Oklahoma State University. I never learned the story while we were going to church together. It took going to college. And I heard the story of how his wife accidentally put the notice of him being called to the headquarters office, and she covered it up accidentally, and he didn't show up for one of the sides of the building that would be most impacted. Some very famous photos. I would be a few years later, state FFA president, and we would start the 168 Pennies campaign on behalf of Career Tech. So while these men were serving in state leadership roles, The youth were responding to try to find ways to assist and be a part of the goodwill that you spoke of just a minute ago. And so I'm going to close just by saying that it reminds us, this incident, of the need to fulfill what George Washington in a 1789 statement, his farewell address, talked about, that it is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey His will, to be grateful for His benefits, and to humbly implore His protection and favor. That incident was a first for a nation that had enjoyed quietness on the home front, and it shattered us. Years later, we would have 9/11. But it reminds us today, as we pause and remember what happened in Oklahoma 31 years ago, taking the lives of 168 innocent people, the need for us to have bended knees and pray Psalms 91 type protection over this nation. Thank you, Congressman Lucas, for setting this up. I truly appreciate it. With that, I would yield the balance of my time.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself as much time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, my grandparents' generation could tell you where they were when they heard the news that Wiley Post and Will Rogers had been lost in that plane crash in Alaska in 1935. They could also tell you exactly what they were doing when the news came of the bombing of Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. My parents, who were young men, kids at the time, could tell you exactly where they were when that same news about Pearl Harbor came. They could tell you exactly what they were doing when they discovered that President Kennedy had been assassinated. For my generation, there have been many things that imprint the mind that will mark the memory forever. But that day 31 years ago that took the lives of 168 of our fellow citizens is my equivalent to those earlier tragedies. I and the Oklahoma delegation were all together in Dallas, Fort Worth, for a meeting of the Base Realignment and Closure Commission, BRAC, when the tragedy occurred at 9:02 a.m. And I'll never forget having a reporter from one of the Oklahoma City news radio stations tap me on the shoulder. And he said, "Congressman, don't you have an office in the federal building?" I said, "Chris, I do, but there are 3 federal buildings. Are you talking about MURA, the federal courthouse, or the United States Post Office?" He said, "We have a report that there's been some kind of an explosion at the federal building in Oklahoma City, and it's gone." Now, at that moment, I jumped up and charged out of the auditorium, and in the lobby were the television screens, even in that day, with the live coverage, and I immediately recognized the MURA building. My people were a block and a half away in the U.S. Post Office building, but I immediately recognized the building. The core of this building had been blown out, and it had been designed in the 1960s during the anti-war period to withstand an attack. But the magnitude of this attack. Senator Nichols, who led the delegation that day to the BRAC hearing, hurriedly went down and discussed with the leadership of the BRAC Commission and the 2 state delegations ahead of us, and they were able to accelerate our abbreviated testimony, and we left Dallas and came back to Oklahoma City as fast as we could. I'll never forget walking up the street from the south, I believe Harvey, coming by what was then our old 6th District office in the U.S. Post Office building. This is a block and a half away on the opposite side of the blast down the street. And the shock wave was big enough that it blew all of our windows in and took down our ceilings. Now, I had people buried under rubble. I had people thrown across rooms, but everyone was okay. We were lucky. And in the delegation, we proceeded, JC and I and several staffers, on up the street and around to the corner. And to behold what we saw. Just the most amazing thing. But my colleagues are right. The response from almost the first instant was amazing. A lot of times people think that when you have a tragedy, a natural disaster, that the federal government's going to come in and save you. That's not the system. The system is for local government to function and for local government to call upon county and state government to support them. And if the need is great enough, then to turn to the federal government and FEMA to back them up. And that's exactly the way it worked in Oklahoma City. The mayor, the police chief, the fire chief triaged the situation, knew they had more than they could handle, called upon county government, state government, the governor, Secretary Cole, who then turned to FEMA and the President of the United States. A textbook example of how things were supposed to work in the most hideous and horrible of circumstances. I don't ever want anyone to go through something of that nature or magnitude ever again. Because you see, it took 5 years of the federal delegation working with those federal employees who had survived, many of them who had been physically and emotionally injured, and their families to sort out what were they going to do next? What did they want to do? What were they capable of doing? Call it compassionate work if you want. Call it treating your fellow citizens in a decent way. But we worked for 5 years to work our way through that. I would also say Congressman Cole referenced the outflowing of love and support from across the country, the emergency management teams and all of the entities that came pouring in to help. It was amazing. But about 3 or 4 months after the immediate tragedy was over, I got a call from one of our colleagues, a congressman in New Jersey by the name of Jim Saxton. And Jim said, my community has been raising money and they want to give it to Oklahoma City to help. Would you come to New Jersey with me and see my folks and accept their gift? Now, I didn't know what to expect, but I thought the world of Congressman Saxton, and if his people were trying to help my people, absolutely. And we went up to New Jersey. And in a high school auditorium near a military base, the bands and the cheerleaders and the school kids and the adults in the community, it was quite an event. But they had done car washes, bake sales, they'd donated money, they'd raised cash, and they presented me with a huge check. Now, this is 31 years ago for $100,000. Now, that's a lot of money now, but that was an incredible amount of money in 1995 to give to people you'd never met, that you didn't know, but you knew you cared about. That is another one of those moments I'll never forget. $100,000. Bottom line is this. From that great tragedy came the foundation to educate people about these issues. From that tragedy came the memorial, memorializing, honoring, remembering those 168 lost people. And if you're ever, even remotely close to Oklahoma City, you should go and walk through that somber memorial and go through all of the educational exhibits at the foundation. Just the most amazing thing. Am I different today, still after all this time, than I was before the moment the tragedy struck? I'll always be different. I will always be different. When you've seen the worst of what humanity can do to itself, followed by the best of what humanity can do for itself, you can't help but be a changed person. Again, to my friends, thank you for everything that you did. Thank you for working so diligently for all those good folks in Oklahoma City and to everybody across the country. My grandparents could tell you when Wiley and Will had their tragedy. My father could quote you where he was standing in Elk City when they saw on a TV screen that President Kennedy had been assassinated. will forever have burned in my memory that reporter tapping me on the shoulder. We have a report, there's been an explosion, the federal building's gone. Where is your office? I'll never forget that. And with that, Mr. Speaker, one last time I want to thank everyone who helped us in Oklahoma City. I want to express my sympathy for everyone who lost someone in Oklahoma City. But thank goodness we are Oklahomans, but most importantly, we are Americans. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 3rd, 2025, the gentlewoman from Virginia, Ms. McClellan, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include any extraneous material on the subject of this special order.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to anchor this special order hour on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus in honor of Black Maternal Health Week. For the 10th year in a row, the Black Mamas Matter Alliance led Black Maternal Health Week last week to address the high rates of preventable maternal mortality among Black women, who are more than 3 times as likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. Black Maternal Health Week focuses on advocacy, community building, and policy change. And this year's theme, Rooted in Justice and Joy, highlights the need for both systemic change to address racial disparities and the celebration of Black motherhood and strength. This special order hour is an opportunity for the Congressional Black Caucus to discuss the ongoing crisis facing our nation's Black mothers and to explore solutions to protecting our community's Black women. So tonight, I start this special order hour with identifying the state of Black maternal health in our nation. In a nutshell, we are in crisis. And the Black maternal health crisis is not just statistics. 11 years ago next week, I nearly became one of those statistics when my daughter and I both nearly died when my placenta ruptured 9 weeks before my due date. I needed an emergency C-section. I had placenta previa, and because I had health insurance and access to pre- and postnatal care, I was one of the lucky ones. But too many Black women in America aren't so lucky. Compared to other high-income countries, the U.S. still has the highest rate of maternal deaths. In 2023, the most recent year for which data is available, the national maternal mortality rate actually declined. But Black women were still more than 3 times as likely as white women to experience a pregnancy-related death, and 87% of these deaths were preventable. In my own state of Virginia, after significant improvements from peak deaths in 2021, Virginia's maternal mortality rate got worse in 2023. Now, we face a complex road ahead as we seek solutions to protect Black women and families against this loss. The maternal health crisis connects health care with insurance policy, reproductive freedom, environmental policy, and so much more. These issues don't exist in a vacuum, and many of them are rooted in decades, I would say centuries, of inequity. These issues require a holistic approach to bring down the mortality rate and save lives. But recent rollbacks at the federal level risk deepening this maternal health crisis. Medicaid cuts and the expiration of the enhanced premium tax credits under the Affordable Care Act have driven up the cost of maternal care for millions, making this vital care inaccessible for those unable to pay for it out of pocket. The Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade caused 1 in 3 women of childbearing years to live in states with abortion bans or extreme restrictions. And in those states with bans, women are 2 times more likely to die of pregnancy-related causes. Again, it's not just statistics. We've seen tragic stories of women like Amber Thurman and Candy Miller who died suffering miscarriages, awaiting simple procedures that could have saved their life. But the hospitals weren't sure if they fit within the exceptions to the ban. On top of this, the Trump administration has doubled down on making it harder to secure justice for Black families and address the maternal health crisis in Black communities. President Trump's executive order banning diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, limiting federal government's ability to enforce hospital accountability for treatment of Black mothers, weeks after the Biden administration reached a historic settlement agreement to uphold these guidelines and provide training for hospital staff to address bias. Under the Trump administration, funding cuts and mass layoffs have left agencies like the Health and Human Services Department without the resources or staff needed to conduct research and implement policies that save lives, and thousands of data sets that have helped identify the maternal mortality factors and track how we're doing with policies to address them. These data sets can no longer be assessed. Now President Trump wants to go even further, as his proposed budget for 2027 calls for over $800 million in cuts to maternal and child health programs at HHS. The proposal would eliminate many essential programs entirely, including the Healthy Start program, which serves mothers and infants in high-risk communities, the maternal mortality review committees, the perinatal quality collaboratives, and other programs that track maternal mortality and share solutions for reducing it. This is not acceptable, and the Congressional Black Caucus will do everything within our power to oppose this proposed budget. But in the face of these setbacks at the federal level, we will continue to push for change. As a member of not only the Congressional Black Caucus, but the Black Maternal Health Caucus, and especially as a mom who faced that crisis personally, I am fighting back as we continue to push forward, because we cannot afford to wait, and we certainly can't afford to sit back and do nothing. And that's why I'm co-sponsoring the Momnibus, a package of 14 bills that aims to address the root causes of maternal health challenges, provide support to mothers, and study how we can build a better system for every American family in need of care. The Black Maternal Health Caucus has fought for this legislation for years. We will not stop until it becomes law. It must become law now. Our fight remains far from over, but legislators and advocates alike continue to work towards tangible change to eradicate this Black maternal health crisis. And I am proud to stand and work alongside members like the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, who I yield to now, Representative Yvette Clarke from New York.
I'd like to thank the gentlelady from Virginia, my colleague, my esteemed colleague, Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan, for sharing her story and for being so pointed in the ways in which Black women have been disadvantaged with respect to Black maternal health, and for anchoring this Congressional Black Caucus Special Order Hour. Good evening, I'm Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke, Chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and proudly representing New York's 9th Congressional District in Brooklyn, New York. I rise tonight with my colleagues of the CBC because the state of Black maternal health in America is not just a public health issue, it's a moral crisis. In the wealthiest nation in the world, American women suffer the highest rates of maternal mortality. And this crisis falls hardest on Black women. We know the facts. In the United States, Black women are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. The vast majority of complications are preventable with timely, high-quality care. Too many families are left grieving. Too many warnings have gone unheard. Behind every statistic is a name, a story, a family forever changed. These stories demand more than sympathy, they demand action. These disparities are the outcome of deep inequities in access to health care, structural racism, and a system that too often fails Black women at every stage of pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum recovery. These deaths are preventable, yet instead of preventing them and improving maternal health, Republicans are stripping coverage that mothers rely on, worsening an already deadly crisis. Efforts to dismantle health care, undermine reproductive health services, and strip away critical protections will continue to disproportionately harm Black women around our nation. Now is the time when we should be building on progress, not continuing the pattern of neglect and disregard for our health and our lives. We must continue to invest in community-based care, diversify the maternal health workforce, address implicit bias in our healthcare system, and ensure that every woman, no matter her zip code, has access to quality, affordable care. The Congressional Black Caucus will continue to fight for policies that center equity, protect access, and save lives. Black maternal health is about more than health care. It's about justice, it's about dignity, and it's about whether this country is willing to value Black women the way we deserve to be valued. We will not stop until Black mothers are safe, supported, able to thrive before, during, and after giving birth. And with that, I yield back to the gentlelady from Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now yield to the representative from Wisconsin, Gwen Moore.
Thank you so much, gentlelady, for anchoring this on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, and thank you so much for your passionate words and your lived experience. Unfortunately, your story is not a rare story. It is all too common, especially for women of color. And you know, as a mother, as a grandmother of 3 women, and a great-grandmother of 3 great-grandbabies, this is really personal to me. I have a real stake in this fight, which is one of the reasons that I really, really, really want to implore my colleagues, Ms. McClellan, to pass the momnibus. This crisis demands immediate action, Mr. Speaker. As Black women, you have heard, are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. And nearly over 80% of these deaths are preventable. These are not just data. There's stuff behind there. This is not done in a vacuum. This is because of the systemic failure of our healthcare system and its structural failures. And the thing is that the part that irks me so much, Ms. McClellan, is the fact that you said that 80, I said 80, you said 87% of these deaths are preventable in the wealthiest country in the world. You know, this is one of the reasons when I look at our momnibus and I think of all of the bills that are in the bill, I think of women being served at every single phase of their pregnancy. That is, you could look at one of the initiatives I have, expanding the perinatal workforce, really wanting to provide doulas and provide people to help guide vulnerable women with vulnerable pregnancies through their pregnancies. You know, we talk about in our momnibus, we are dealing with some like Miss Lucy McBath's extending WIC for New Moms Act, which would provide WIC support for postpartum and breastfeeding mothers. We have initiatives even to intervene in pregnancies that occur with incarcerated women. I have an initiative with Senator Baldwin over in the other house to provide no cost sharing for women's mental health, not only during the 9 months of pregnancy, but for 1 year postpartum. We're finding, Ms. McClellan, that so many of these deaths are occurring because of poor mental health among Black women without the appropriate interventions and health care. And obviously, Mr. Speaker, we can't cut Medicaid at the tune of $1.2 trillion and proposing $1.4 billion cuts in WIC for fruits and vegetables because we know that this is science-backed data that tells us you just really can't starve a kid, starve a woman during pregnancy and expect good health outcomes. So what's missing? What's missing, Mr. Speaker and Madam Convener of us tonight, is that we just don't have the sense of urgency about taking care of our children. And as a founding member of the Black Maternal Health Caucus, we've come up with some common sense and science and evidence-based legislation like the Omnibus that would truly make America healthier. And so I think we have a roadmap, the Congressional Black Caucus and the Black Maternal Health Caucus. We have a roadmap for change. The time for action, Mr. Speaker, is yesterday. And we must pass the omnibus. Black mamas can't wait. We know what the solutions are, and we just have to get to work. And with that, I would yield back to you.
Thank you, Representative Moore. I now yield to the representative from Illinois, Ms. Lauren Underwood.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Last week, we marked the 10th annual Black Maternal Health Week, a week of action and engagement and advocacy with the goal of ending our nation's maternal health crisis and the disparities that disproportionately impact Black women. Moms across America are demanding a comprehensive solution to this crisis. And while it affects moms from every community, of every demographic, we know that there are significant inequities across racial and ethnic lines. Black women die from pregnancy-related complications at 3 to 4 times the rate of their white counterparts, a disparity that exists across income brackets and education levels. Personal losses and staggering statistics like these are why 7 years ago, I co-founded the Black Maternal Health Caucus with my sister and colleague, Congresswoman Alma Adams. Today, the Black Maternal Health Caucus is one of the largest bipartisan caucuses on Capitol Hill. Our flagship legislation, which I am proud to lead along with Congresswoman Adams, is the Momnibus, a comprehensive package of 14 evidence-based bills designed to address every clinical and non-clinical factor leading to preventable maternal mortality, morbidity, and disparities in the United States. This legislation is designed to solve America's maternal health crisis and end the disproportionate risks faced by Black women. This is not a Band-Aid. This is the solution, and Congress must pass it now. Over the last 7 years, we have made incredible progress on maternal health and moving the priorities in the Momnibus forward. We've gotten hundreds of millions of dollars signed into law to fund life-saving research on maternal health and to support the organizations nationwide who are putting that knowledge to use on the front lines of the crisis. We've even passed the first Momnibus bill into law, the Protecting Moms Who Served Act, which helps our veterans receive the quality maternal care that they deserve. Yes, these are meaningful steps forward, but our work is not done. Moms are dying every single day, and it is time for us to come together and deliver a comprehensive solution because our moms deserve better. Moms like Dr. Janelle Green-Smith, a nurse midwife, a DNP, a professor and maternal health advocate who we tragically lost in January to childbirth complications days after delivering her daughter Eden. She deserved better. Moms like Mercedes Wells, who survived giving birth by the side of the road minutes after being turned away from a hospital while in active labor in December. She deserved better. Moms like Kiara Jones, who was ignored while she sat in active labor crying out and doubled over in pain in a hospital waiting room. She deserved better. To end this crisis once and for all, and to ensure that all moms have access to the respectful and competent care they deserve, we must pass the whole Momnibus, the comprehensive solution to address maternal mortality in America. This is a fight that we cannot lose. Black Maternal Health Week is a reminder that every mom of every background has a right to a safe pregnancy and postpartum period. Bringing new life into the world should be a time of celebration, not fear, not grief. And this year's Black Maternal Health Week theme, Rooted in Justice and Joy, reflects the incredible resilience of the moms, families, and advocates who are working every day to make that vision a reality for women across the country. So, as we have the Congressional Black Caucus recognizing Black Maternal Health Week through this special order hour, I'm so pleased that we have the opportunity as a Congress to celebrate the progress we've made together. But we also must rededicate ourselves to doing the work. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, and I now yield to the representative from Ohio, Amelia Sykes.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving us the opportunity to rise in recognition of Black Maternal Health Week, a moment to reflect on a reality that should alarm every one of us in this chamber. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Black women are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause in this country than white women. That is not a small disparity. It's a systemic failure. And in my home state of Ohio, the data tells us an even more painful story. While maternal mortality has risen for all women over time, the rate for Black mothers has more than doubled, from 29.3 to 59.7 deaths per 1,000 live births. These are not just numbers on a page. These are mothers who should be here today. These are families that should not be grieving. These are children growing up without the care, stability, and the love of the person who brought them into this world. Mr. Speaker, as I've said before, enough is enough. Black mothers deserve to feel safe and supported throughout their pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum period. Every mother deserves high-quality, affordable health care, and addressing maternal mortality is not a partisan issue, it's a human issue. That's why long before I came to Congress, I worked on this issue at the state level. As the minority leader of the Ohio House, I helped co-found the first Ohio Black Maternal Health Caucus, the first of its kind in the country, because we could not ignore this crisis unfolding in our communities. And now in Congress, I continue that work as a member of the Congressional Black Maternal Health Caucus and as chair of the Reproductive Justice Task Force. But leadership is not just about titles and task forces, it's about action. That's why I'm an original sponsor of the Black Maternal Health Momnibus Act, legislation that will save lives by investing in community care, strengthening the workforce, improving data, and addressing the root causes of maternal mortality. It's why I've introduced and supported legislation to protect access to emergency and labor care under the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, better known as EMTALA, ensuring that no woman is turned away during childbirth and labor. And it's why I fought against the spread of dangerous disinformation through the Stop Anti-Abortion Disinformation Act, because misleading women during some of the most vulnerable moments of their lives has no place in a healthcare system built on trust and safety. We must also confront the role that access, or lack thereof, plays in these healthcare outcomes. In Ohio, Black mothers are more likely to rely on Medicaid to cover their births. That means decisions, including the $1 trillion cut to the Medicaid program that Republicans in this chamber made as part of the One Big Ugly Bill, are not abstract budget choices. These are risks imposed upon real people. They are decisions about whether these women can see a doctor, whether they can receive prenatal care, whether complications will be caught in time, and whether or not they live or die. In my home state of Ohio, 13 out of 88 counties are considered maternity care deserts, leaving tens of thousands of women without reasonable access to obstetric services. Imagine being told you are bringing a life into this world and then discovering that the nearest hospital that can safely deliver your baby is hours away. That is a reality that far too many families face today. Mr. Speaker, we cannot accept this as normal. Black maternal health is not just what happens inside of the doctor's office, because if it were so, we would have figured this out and solved this crisis decades ago. It's what happens outside of the hospital, the social determinants of health, the things that are going on in our communities: education, clean air, clean water, access to upward mobility. All of these things impact the ability for a woman to conceive and deliver a baby successfully. And one thing that most people don't seem to know, or maybe they do know and just don't like to talk about, is that the leading cause of death for pregnant women is violence. A Harvard study said that homicide deaths among pregnant women are more prevalent than deaths from hypertension, hemorrhage, and sepsis. And gun violence has been called a health emergency for pregnant women. So, Mr. Speaker, we can and must do more to protect pregnant women, not just inside the hospital, not just outside the hospital, but also within the intimate relationships that oftentimes find themselves creating deadly circumstances in which mothers and babies cannot live. Mr. Speaker, we stand on this floor often. We fight about a lot. But one thing should be very easy: protecting women, protecting babies, encouraging life and prosperity should not be something that is challenging or hard for us to all do together. And for that reason, we are here to celebrate Black mothers, honor Black Maternal Health Week, and ensure that all of our colleagues across the aisle are supporting the Momadas. Thank you so much to my colleague from the great state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth, of Virginia, for holding and hosting the special order hour, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The threat to our hospital OBGYNs is not theoretical. Centera, Southside, and Farmville, Virginia announced that the closure of its labor and delivery unit, and it ended OBGYN services at their Centera Southside Community Hospital on December 19th, 2025, citing a combination of significant financial and operational challenges, including the recently enacted reductions in federal health care funding and the Medicaid cuts. I'd now like to yield to the Congresswoman from New Jersey, Representative LaMonica McGiver.
Thank you so much to